The Dallas Cowboys have hired Kellen Moore to be their offensive coordinator. It's exciting. He's a former quarterback at Boise State, left-handed guy.
Legend.
4-year starter, dominated for years. If you don't know his story, he played with the Detroit Lions for a couple of years as a backup, never played, went to the Cowboys as a backup, was Dak Prescott's backup for a year, and then ultimately transitioned to become their quarterback coach. And it's very interesting. I made a video 6 months ago talking about how he might be the next great young offensive coach.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that's possible. I don't know that he's going to do that with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know they're putting him in a position to succeed. And I can explain that. It's interesting he was in Detroit under Scott Linehan.
Right.
He learned a lot about football from the Lions coach, Scott Linehan. Scott Linehan went to the Cowboys, and Kellen Moore followed him to the Cowboys, where he learned a lot from, again, Scott Linehan was the Cowboys offensive coordinator. The Cowboys said, we're tired of Scott Linehan. We're going to fire Scott Linehan. We're going to hire his understudy, Kellen Moore. I think it's very interesting, and I don't think that the philosophy makes sense to me. They got sick of the bland vanilla offense that Scott Linehan was running.
Right.
They hired the guy who learned everything from Scott Linehan. It's like saying, I don't like ketchup on a hamburger, and so I'm just going to get a different brand of ketchup. Now, the problem is ketchup in general. You don't like that condiment. Get no ketchup on the hamburger. I'm very concerned that the Cowboys are putting themselves in a position for heartbreak and failure. And I further my point by saying that the Cowboys, it came out recently that they're likely not to extend Jason Garrett's contract.
Right.
So he has 1 year left on his contract. It's going to expire at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see this playing out very well. I don't see this being a successful move.
You think it might have been just an inside hire, just to hire Kellen Moore, and then once the contract for Jason Garrett's up, he gets dumped, they hire a new head coach, brings in a new staff. That's one potential for it.
It's a placeholder.
Right, kind of deal. But I also think we might be underestimating how much Chris Peterson taught Kellen Moore about football. Because Chris Peterson's one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Who is Chris Peterson, if they don't know?
Chris Peterson was the former Boise State coach back when Kellen Moore was there.
Yep.
He's now the head coach for UW.
Washington.
University of Washington. They've had an excellent couple of years. This year, they were, Pac-12 champions?
Yep.
And so Chris Peterson's an excellent coach. He proved it when he was at Boise State, beating FBS teams on a consistent basis, gets to a Pac-12 school, has success after 2 years, once he's implemented his system. He's a great recruiter, et cetera, et cetera. So enough about Chris Peterson.
Well, no.
But I think we're underestimating how much Chris Peterson may have taught Kellen Moore. Because if you know Chris Peterson always keeps a lot of tricks in his bag.
Yeah.
He's a great schemer. He understands what he needs to do against different defenses to exploit matchups and, things like that. So I think Kellen Moore has more to offer than we think he does, in addition to the fact that in the NFL, sometimes getting a job is about having a relationship with somebody. So Kellen Moore might have been kicked out of Detroit, but he has another job because he knew Scott Linehan.
Well, he also has a great relationship with Dak Prescott.
Right.
It's weird to go from, imagine if your backup wide receiver became your coach.
Right.
It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, your backup quarterback, not backup receiver.
Well, but you're a receiver. So imagine like a guy behind you on the depth chart moves to become your coach.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, it's hard to respect that, but that tells you a lot about the knowledge that Kellen Moore has. And if Dak Prescott is willing to respect that, I think that tells you a lot about Kellen Moore's knowledge of football and what he's been able to teach Dak Prescott.
It's evident to me the Dallas Cowboys are at a point where a point of like a fork in the road.
Mm-hmm.
If Kellen Moore can save or make or break Jason Garrett's future with the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
If Kellen Moore can come up with some creative schemes, because here's the problem with the Cowboys was their schemes were not creative enough. They were running very basic concepts, running the ball heavily. They weren't coming up with cool stuff that you see like Kyle Shanahan doing or Matt Nagy doing with the Bears. Right. It wasn't creative enough in their offense. If Kellen Moore can't do that, Jason Garrett will lose his job. They need to see progress from Dak Prescott. They need to see better play calling and a change of their play calling. So
I just think Kellen Moore naturally is going to be a more dynamic play caller.
Why?
Just honestly because of his experience with Chris Peterson.
Yeah.
I think when you get your foundation of football from somebody, it's very hard to change, the way you think of it.
Yeah.
And how you think about football. And I think he's willing to take more risks than probably Scott Linehan was willing to. And in addition to that, yes, they had a very vanilla offense. They were not a playoff team. They added Amari Cooper. Boom, playoff team. Amari Cooper had an incredible second half of the year just by being on the Cowboys because it gave Dak Prescott a weapon. it relieved some of the pressure that was being forced on the run game. So when you take a look at that, and now maybe you're going to add Kellen Moore, who might change up a few things, add a few new schemes, a few new wrinkles to the offense, I think that they have a chance to be more dynamic with somebody like Amari Cooper, with Ezekiel Elliott, with Cole Beasley. I think Kellen Moore is going to take advantage of Cole Beasley in ways that probably Scott Linehan didn't.
Using him as a gadget player, probably in fly sweeps, things like that.
Gadget player, but just more used in the traditional Wes Welker type Julian Edelman way.
Yeah.
A more consistent third down, I can look to you receiver when Amari Cooper's double covered kind of deal.
I think it's interesting. You could have predicted Kellen Moore, even when he was in college, becoming a next offensive coordinator of a coach. He was never a physically dominant player. A very limited arm, average arm strength. Exactly. He had to understand the game. He had to have a great understanding of football. That's why he did well at Boise State.
Right.
I just think it's very curious. I like him, by the way. I'm a big fan of his. I loved him at Boise State.
Absolutely.
I hope he succeeds. I think it's clear, though, if he doesn't succeed, Dak Prescott might be on the way out, and Jason Garrett is probably on the way out. They got 1 year left. I think Dak Prescott has 1 year left on his contract. Jason Garrett's on the last year of his contract. And Kellen Moore is going to make or break the future of the Cowboys based on his play calling. Can he come up with something creative? That's the story that I want to watch, is how successful is he?
So if Dak and Jason Garrett were to be on the way out, who's available to replace Dak Prescott? Would you try to take a chance on a rookie?
Tua?
Likely,
right? Or Justin Herbert, someone in the draft. Because they got it there. If Dak isn't their franchise quarterback, they're going to have to find someone else. What are they going to do? Sign Alex Smith? I don't know.
I think Dak Prescott's talented enough to be not a franchise quarterback, but like a 2011 or 12 Joe Flacco? Or
he can win. He could win a Super Bowl.
He can win a Super Bowl. Yeah, if you put the pieces around him and if you get the right offense around him. So I don't think if Jason Garrett's gone, I don't think that necessarily means Dak is gone. I just think Jason Garrett's gone with the wind, and whoever else is next up in Jerry Jones' buddy party, then that's what it is.
Is Jerry Jones the owner part of the problem? I look at him and say he's way too involved in football. He's not leaving football to football guys. Do you agree with that statement?
I agree with that, and I think it's part of the way he develops relationships. If he likes you, he's going to give you opportunity after opportunity. And I think that's been proven with Jason Garrett with just intermediate success. And I think making the playoffs this year kind of helped.
Yeah.
But
do you think
something has to change? And whether Kellen Moore is that change for their offense or for their teams in general, I don't know, because they have an excellent defense right now.
Yeah.
It's just the offense needs to be able to consistently put up points.
I hope Kellen Moore succeeds. I also wonder if Jerry Jones has the security in himself to hire. Imagine if Jim Harbaugh comes to the Cowboys. Jim Harbaugh wants total control. He doesn't want Jerry Jones.
Right.
He doesn't want Jerry Jones breathing over his shoulder.
Right.
And I don't know that Jerry Jones is comfortable enough and secure enough with himself to give up control of his franchise to a head coach or a general manager.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think Jerry Jones holding back the Cowboys.
I think that'll be part of the problem, and that's to an even higher degree. That's part of the problem with the Browns, with their owner.
Yeah, bad owners are a huge problem.
Bad owners can kill a team.
Well, I always say there are 4 things you need to win a Super Bowl. You need and to varying degrees, but you need a great coach, you need a great quarterback, a great offensive line, and a great defense. The 5th thing I always say is you need a stable owner that doesn't meddle in football. If you have a crazy owner, you're not going to win a Super Bowl. If you have the Browns owner, I don't think Jerry Jones. I mean, Tom Brady's won more playoff games in his 40s than the Cowboys have won in the last 20 years.
Right.
That says a lot. So, I hate doing this. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I really don't like self-promotion. It makes me feel like a used car salesman, but I got to do it. So if you don't know, this is my podcast, Strong Opinion Sports. It's my favorite thing in the world. And you can subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud. You can find it on YouTube. You can find the full entire hour-long podcast on YouTube. You can also find shorter breakout clips like the one you just watched. Please do me a favor. If you like anything I had to say, maybe you hate me and you're mad about something, share this podcast with your friends. Share it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you want to do. Help me grow by telling your friends about this show.